seagull spots a school of Atlantic salmon just off the coast. The salmon smell and taste the waters of their parent stream. They're jumping with joy. They're so happy to be back home again. Nearby, another seagull sees quite a different scene. Here, part of the school of salmon have come in contact with one of the great commercial traps, which extends several hundred yards out from shore. When the salmon come in contact with a net, they try to go through it but can't, so they follow it out to seaward. At the far end is a funnel-shaped opening which is easy to get into, but difficult to get out of. That is the trap. In the trap are several Atlantic salmon. Alongside in his rowboat is a commercial fisherman, and with his long-handled net, he's busy netting out one salmon after the other. This is a nice big one. He'd go about 35 pounds. What a lot of fun he'd be on a fly rod. And the trap is another. Up the estuary he swims. Past the commercial fishing fleet. This being Sunday, the boats are in. The bottom alongside the dock is lined with clamshells. You'll notice two big eels in the middle of the picture. There are generally a lot of eels in the mouth of a salmon river. We now proceed on upstream to the dividing line between freshwater and tidewater. We now come to the tide pool. When the salmon arrive in this general area, they mill around for 2 or 3 days till they get accustomed to the fresh water. When they feel accustomed to the fresh water, they'll start on up. The salmon now proceed on upstream. The next pool is a pool called the stump pool on account of a large number of old stumps that line the bottom. That night, the salmon felt the urge to move on up, and on up they go. In the distance, they hear a great rumbling noise. At first, they don't know what it is, but they soon find out. It's the great falls of the Madeleine. The salmon obviously haven't got a chance of jumping these falls. They're much too tremendous. Salmon make a few futile attempts. Salmon finally get discouraged and decide they'll head back down the branch and go up the main river itself. Here the salmon are going back down the branch. On the move also is a fisherman and his guide. They too are heading for the junction between the branch and the main river. Just ahead is a pool called the sardine box. The salmon love to rest in this pool, and they're generally packed in like so many sardines in a can. This is the sardine box. On the opposite bank is a young deer. He's not quite sure what he sees, so he takes a step forward to see a little better. He spots a fisherman, a lady fisherman. Now watch carefully and you'll see 4 salmon come from the fly and 4 go back down to the bottom. They never touch the fly. Here they are coming. Here they are going back down again. Guide says you need another fly. And with a glint in his eye, he says, this is the one that'll do the trick. Now watch very carefully and you'll see the salmon come. He's coming, he's got it. First, he doesn't realize he's hooked, so he just sort of swims around sort of easy-like. Then he realizes things aren't just right, and off he goes, and out he comes. Out he comes again. Salmon now starts downriver. Fisherman decides he'd better follow him. There he is. Salmon now is getting a little tired. The fisherman's able to work him in closer to shore. Guide reaches out with his net, and he grabs him. He's a nice big one. Ooh, he's getting me wet. We release the salmon so he can go on upstream and reproduce. Up he goes. We now move on upstream. We raise the deer along the way. Isn't he beautiful? Isn't he graceful? Just look at that fellow move. In the distance is a great 14-mile rapid. You notice there's a lot of white water here. The salmon are too smart to go up the middle of that white water. It's much too fast for them. So they hug the shoreline instead, where there's more friction and the water is slower. They'll go up and they'll come to an indentation, and they'll duck in and rest for a while. Here's the salmon going on up. Comes to an indentation, he ducks in and rests. Here's one of the salmon going up. He's making the mistake of going up the middle of the river where the water is very fast. He slows down, turns left. You watch carefully, you'll probably see him drop back down again along the far side. Down he goes. There's another one ready to take his place. This fellow's a little smarter. He's going up the shoreline instead, where the water is slower. Look at that outboard motor of his go. Here the salmon are resting. Look at the size of that big tail. He'd go about 40 pounds. Here's the salmon coming up. If he stays in the middle of the river, the water's too fast. If he stays close to shore, the water's too shallow. So he has to hit a happy medium. Stay right, stay right. Oh boy, he's beginning to get in trouble. Isn't he a nice big one? Oh boy, you're in trouble. Stay right if you can. Look at the spray from his tail. This fellow's really in trouble. He hasn't done this right. He flops over on his back. A wave comes along and sweeps him back downstream. Here comes another one. Here's coming hell-bent for election. Look at this guy come. Stay right, stay right. Oh, it's too late. Gosh, you got yourself aground. What'd you ever want to do that for? You're really in trouble. Just then, the ore train went by. The engineer tooted his whistle and wished him well. With this inspiration, the salmon arched his back and fought his way back into the river again. Downstream he went. Here comes another one up. He looks like a runaway express train. Well, let's hope this fellow makes it. Attaboy. Think he's got a chance. On up he goes. The river now becomes narrow and deeper, and the water becomes greener and greener, taking the color of the surrounding hills. Here the salmon are going on up. Look how white their mouths are, just like cotton. There's some real big salmon in this group. In the distance are the beautiful falls of the Dartmouth. In order to negotiate these falls, the salmon has to get a good running start, make a good jump, and then swim up vertically the last 4 or 5 feet at the top of the falls. If they jump too far to the left or right, they're in trouble. Here the salmon are jumping. This fellow jumps and we make a swing to the top of the falls. If he makes it on up, we'll see a white feather of spray from his tail as he goes on up, but we don't see it, so we didn't make it. Here's another jump. Then we swing to the top of the falls, but still no white feather of spray. This fellow jumps too far to the left, and he hits a submerged reef, and he swims along it, and ends up in a pothole, which is just about big enough to hold him. He isn't going to like it very well here, and he'll probably be coming out. There he is coming out. Down to the bottom of the falls he goes. Here's another jump. This looks like a pretty good one. Now watch very carefully in the middle of the picture at the base of the black water, a white feather of spray. There he goes, see him? On up he goes. Now he's got to avoid being carried back down over the falls again. He's got to have a lot of endurance, a lot of stamina, a lot of strength, and a lot of courage. This fellow's apparently got all of those things. On up he goes. Up ahead, there's a holding pool where the water is not very fast and the salmon can rest and relax. This fellow's heading up for the holding pool. Here's the holding pool. The salmon are just taking it easy. That night when the sun went down, the moon came up, salmon stayed right where they were. They were too tired to move. Early the next morning, a fisherman and his guide are getting in their canoe to go fishing. This is a delightful time of the day to be out. The air is cool and crisp. The fishing should be good. And there's a good chance of seeing game. The canoe had hardly gotten started when they raised a big deer which was feeding close to shore. Out he came. Around the bend goes the canoe. They raise an albino and his friend, and away they scamper. Look at this deer run. Wouldn't you like to be able to run like he can? Canoe rounds the bend. The guide cuts the motor. Canoe pulls up the shore. Fisherman gets out. Fisherman is working on several big salmon that have been spotted along the far shore. Salmon rises up. Up he goes. He's got the fly. He's on. Out he comes. We have a talking fisherman. Salmon is getting a little tired now, and the fisherman is able to work him in close to shore. Isn't he beautiful? Just look at the size of that fish. Fisherman works him in real close now. The guide puts down his net. The fisherman works the salmon slowly over the net. Guide reaches up and grabs him. Fisherman takes a drink from the spring nearby, and boy, does that water taste good. We release the salmon and let him go on upstream. Guide waves goodbye to him. We now proceed on upstream. The river valley is very pretty here. Guide is poling his canoe upstream. In the distance, there's a group of salmon, and they hear this clanking of the pole, and they don't like it. They probably be starting back downstream in the opposite direction. Here they come, going back down. Deer watches from shore. He says to his pal, "Who are these people out in my river?" "Oh, that's some of those darn salmon fishermen." "Well, let's get out of here. We'll go kind of slow and easy like so they won't think we're scared." Canoe pulls up the shore. Fisherman gets out. Fisherman's going to try to get as close to this salmon as possible without scaring him. Fisherman starts casting. Salmon rises up slowly, and then back down he goes. Didn't touch the fly. Fisherman casts again. Salmon rises up a little higher. Back down he goes. Guide says you raised a big salmon out there. Keep after him. Salmon rises up, 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 almost to the surface, and then he drops down again. Guide says, "Don't change your fly, don't change the length of your line, don't move, just keep casting." So we cast again. Salmon rises up, 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 almost to the top, and then he grabs the fly. He's on. Salmon made a great jump, and then the line went slack, and he was off. I tipped my hat to him and wished him well. Just then a kingfisher flew by and gave me the merry horse laugh. But I at least had the satisfaction of knowing that I'd raised and hooked probably one of the greatest salmon in the river. Isn't she beautiful? What a salmon this is. That night when the sun went down, I kept wondering what the big salmon was doing. If I'd only known, I probably would have gotten a big kick out of it. Because the big salmon was going round and round and round in circles, just as I was. Early the next morning, while the fog was still on the river, we proceeded on upstream, past the pretty ledges. past the pretty camp on the point. Now we're heading up for what is probably the greatest salmon pool any place. This is the Grand Pool. It's a very beautiful pool, as you can see. The head of the pool, the water is quite deep, but if you're able to see to the bottom along the far side, you probably would see something like this. Great salmon over there resting and taking it easy. The guardian is on the job day and night. He never leaves the pool. In the middle of the pool, the salmon lie like so much cordwood, but if you take a good look at them close up and from behind, they don't look like cordwood at all. Salmon love to sun themselves on the rock. There are 5 salmon chinning themselves on the same rock. There's a male salmon up close and a female salmon coming up in the distance. At the very tail of the pool is a single salmon. There's a fisherman down there working on him with a dry fly white wool. Fly passes right over the nose of the salmon. He never moves. Skin over his nose. Guide says, "You're not doing very well. How about letting me try a few?" So I said, "Sure, go ahead." So the guide casts. And he casts. And he casts again. The salmon never move. They stay right down on the bottom. So we decide we'll wait for it to cloud up a little bit, and then we'll try again. So we try again. Dry fly passes right over the nose of the salmon. They pay no attention. On the bottom they stay. Salmon comes up and takes a look at the fly and slowly turns away. Down on the bottom they go. Salmon comes up, turns his back on the fly. Down to the bottom he goes. Now watch this next one. This is really something. The salmon comes up, he smells the fly, he turns his back and he splashes it with spray. He's trying to sink the fly. The guide says, "These salmon are too smart for us. We haven't got a chance. Let's go ashore. We'll start the fire. We'll put the coffee pot on. We'll eat our lunch." So we do all of those things. Guides are eating their sandwiches. I had a can of ale cooling in the brook nearby, so I decided I'd put it to use. My wife is working on a piece of apple pie, which is a little difficult to negotiate. Guide says, "You fellows have been taking it easy long enough. Get out there and get after him. There's a big one right out there, and he's big as a canoe paddle." There he was. So we cast again, this time using the wet fly. Salmon follows the fly right up to the rod tip. In the last minute, the fly comes in and the salmon goes out. He never touched it. Darn. Now watch this run. Out he comes. Oh, isn't that a beautiful jump? First the salmon will be to the right, next he'll be to the left. Salmon now is trying to hug the bottom. He's hoping to rub the fly out on a rock on the bottom. We're doing our best to see that he doesn't do that. Salmon makes a long run. Then he slows down, gets a little tired. And you see the fly in the left-hand side of his mouth? Salmon's tired, he drops back down. He's got strength to make another run, I'm sure. Away he goes. He's real tired now. The guide's getting almost as much fun as the fisherman. The water is very clear. You can all see bugs moving along the bottom. I want to get the length of the line just right. I'm going to try to grab this fellow by the tail. So I reach out, and I grab him. I soon found out he was a little slipperier than I thought, so I had to drop down and get another hold. Isn't he beautiful? We hold the salmon by the tail and hold him into the current so that he can get his strength back. But we're going to let him go. Look at the mean look on his face. The salmon says, I'm all right. You don't need to hold on to me. Let me go. So we let him go. Deer watches from the far shore. Salmon swims back downstream. He comes to the very spot where he came from in the first place. He swings around and heads upstream. That night when the sun went down, the moon came out, the salmon started moving. First one salmon would move, and then another salmon would move. Before morning, nearly every salmon in the pool was on the move. They felt the urge to go on up and spawn. Here they are going on up. Look at that pile of salmon. They come to a pretty brook, and up they go. It was now the middle of October. The leaves had turned on the trees. The grass on the side of the brook had turned from green to brownish gray. Here's a single male salmon working his way upstream. Notice how blood red his tail is, how blood red his fins are. This is indicative of the male salmon at this time of the year. Female salmon are generally a dark brown. He's going on up to a holding pool. Here are a group of salmon resting in the holding pool. They may stay there for 2 or 3 weeks. And then all of a sudden, as if a signal gun had been fired, they'll start out and head for the bars. Here the salmon are breaking up and heading for the bars. The cow moose enters the brook and says, "Who's this in my brook?" "Oh, it's those darn salmon, those spawning salmon." There's a male salmon chasing another male salmon all around the pool. He wants the undivided attention of this beautiful female who's digging a bed downstream. Cow moose says, "There's no place for a girl like me. I'm going to get away from those male salmon." There are 3 male salmon on the left, a female salmon on the right. The males say, "Come on, girlie, move over onto the bed, won't you?" "Oh, you've gone too far. Come on back this way." "Oh, you won't do it, huh? Well, then I'll have to bite you in the tail." Cow moose says, "Gee, I'm glad I'm not a salmon." Here's a male salmon on the left, a female salmon on the right. You notice there's a big rock in the middle of the bed there. The females like that to anchor their eggs after they're deposited. That night when the sun went down, the salmon stayed right on the job. Female would dig, dig, dig every once in a while. She wants the size of that bed just the right shape. Here watches. Dig, dig, dig. Notice the young par. Male takes his position 3 or 4 feet downstream. He's ready to dart forward as soon as he's needed. The female squats. She starts depositing the eggs. You can't see the eggs come out because she squats so low, but you know what's going on because the par stays very close to her vent. They want to get in on the act. Male now darts forward and he fertilizes the eggs. The big buck watches with admiration. Female covers the eggs with gravel. The salmon now have done their duty. All's at peace on the river, and all's at peace at the camp around the bend.